Are you just starting out and not sure what language to focus on? It can take months to years learning to code, so making the right language choice early seems critical. Some say that you need to start with JavaScript, and some say that Python is the best choice for a beginner. Every click leads to a new article, tutorial, YouTube video that you can learn from. The truth is that there is no short answer to this question. I'm Boris, I'm a software engineer from Tel Aviv, and I'm going to walk you through the process of picking the right first language for yourself, for your particular situation, for your needs and for your preferences. So as you pick the first language for yourself, one thing to keep in mind is that once you know one language, whether it's Java, Swift, Python, whatever, as long as you know one, it's going to be much easier to learn any additional language, because every programming language is just a tool to implement the same logical patterns. What I'm trying to say is that if you have already started learning some specific programming language and you won't see me recommending it in this video, that doesn't mean that you should immediately stop learning this language. Move on. If you like this language, if you feel that learning it is fun, you will learn it pretty fast. And then it will be way more easy for you to learn any other programming language. Don't think of a programming language as of a real language. It's not like once you learned English and now you are going to Paris, so you need to learn French. You may think of it that it's like more learning to drive. Let's assume that you had some small Toyota to learn the basics and to get your first driving license. You will still be able to drive some fancy Mercedes or a huge Ford Explorer or even an electric car like Tesla. There is a popular opinion that you need to research the job market to understand what programming language to learn because it's in demand. The tricky part that the job market is really depends on your location, but it's not necessary that you will work where you live now. For example, one of my friends was living back in the days not far from the huge Hewlett-Packard R&D center, and they were hiring ABAP programmers. So he saw an opportunity there. The problem that ABAP programming is a very narrow niche. So when my friend left HP and moved to another city, he had to learn another programming language from the beginning to find a job. What I'm trying to say, don't really rely on the job market in your area. Maybe you'll find some relocation offers soon, or probably you will work from home from some startup that is located somewhere in the Middle East. High-tech industry is growing fast, so don't worry, there are the jobs for every programming language. Also, I see a lot of videos that cover the salaries per programming language. This is another bad advice in my opinion, because every programming job is well paid. Of course, there are some languages that can bring you more money, for example Scala, but if you learn such complex programming language as Scala as your first programming language, you will probably lose any motivation to become a software engineer. So what matters most is your motivation, determination, and an ability to focus on learning and mastering your chosen programming language. So my first tip is to choose the language that could be easy to learn. In my opinion, such language could be Python. One of my colleagues likes to say that the best thing about learning Python is that actually you don't need to learn it. A good Python code looks like more a sentence in English and not like a complicated programming code. This is a multi-purpose language that features different programming paradigms, and it's always a good idea to learn something multi-purpose, general purpose, when you don't really know what to learn. Web and desktop applications, servers, machine learning, artificial intelligence applications, all of them use Python. Python community is pretty big, so you can always pretty easy find an answer to your question. If you open a website like LinkedIn or Glassdoor, you may see yourself that Python developers are in demand mostly everywhere in the world. Another good example of the language that is relatively easy to learn is JavaScript. According to the Stack Overflow, more than 70% of all the developers in the world use JavaScript. Another big community, as you may see. Despite that it's a primary front-end language, it's used for the visual parts of the web applications, it's a versatile language and can be applied in mostly any software field, from servers to mobile applications. JavaScript supports multiple programming styles, from object-oriented to functional, and it has a vast, rapidly expanding number of libraries. Another language that I would suggest to learn as your first programming language is Java. Despite the JavaScript that I have mentioned before seems to be easier language to learn than Java, Java is pretty clear and logical. I mean, it's a good choice if you want to understand the main programming concepts. Despite that Java is considered to be an object-oriented language, the latest versions of this language are called as functional functional Java. Java community is huge. Java's famous slogan is "Write once, run anywhere," as it runs on any platform that supports it. The language is used a lot for desktop servers, web and network applications. It's still the main language for the Android development, despite the rising popularity of Kotlin. So if you want to develop for mobile, it could be a really good choice too. If you want to develop mobile apps for iPhone, iPads or probably desktop apps for any other Apple devices, I mean you are interested into iOS or macOS development, I would suggest to learn Swift. In my opinion, it's harder to learn Swift than, for example, Java, but really, it's fun to learn it. Like my previous examples before, it's also both object-oriented and functional language, and there are a lot of good courses and Swift tutorials online. Because nowadays this is the main language for the development of the applications that are running on the Apple devices. As you have already guessed, it's good to have some specific field in mind where you want to work. Web development, mobile development, machine learning, and so on. So if you know the field where you would like to work, it will be easier for you to choose your first language that you need to master to get your first job. But, as I have already said, and I'll say it again, if you don't know what to choose and where to start, choose any general purpose language. It's more important for you to like this language, to understand this language, so learning will be fun, and it will be easier for you to master your coding skills. Also, it doesn't really matter what your first language is, because programming language is just a tool. You need it only to implement your program's logic. Look even at the famous Harvard CS50 course. A lot of people surprised that the first week is not even in any real programming language. It's just some kind of a programming language called Scratch. Then from there, the course quickly moves from one language to another, from C to JavaScript to Python. And this is not because this course is trying to cover as much languages as it can, but rather it tries to make you focus on logical elements and patterns instead of the specific coding examples. This is the best proof that coding and programming is not the same, but this is completely another topic I'm covering on my next video. See you there!